Good morning and welcome to another edition of AwakenTheWorld.ca. My name is Garhen, and this morning we're going to be talking about the sleeper and the fact that the sleeper must awaken. And yes, that is a movie reference right out of the Dune movie. I believe it was Herbert. I'm probably going to get in trouble for that one. Anyways, I actually enjoyed the movie, believe it or not. I didn't give it the review everyone else did, but let's talk about what we need to today, and that is the sleeper. And that is not a derogatory term at all, and it should not be taken that way. Sleeper best describes the state of the bulk of humanity right now. Now, I will grant you that there are some people waking up, and that is fantastic. But as the numerous other times in history that we've been here before, we actually need now to accelerate that process. And this is where we haven't had the ability to do it in the past. Whereas now we have the technology to disseminate the necessary information to actually set up a worldwide meditation, scientifically designed and planned to actually sweep the whole of humanity forward. The sleeper will awaken, but we have the opportunity to accelerate that process and cut back on the amount of suffering in between now and when the sleeper does finally wake up. We are asleep at the wheel of this little vehicle that we drive to and fro across the planet's surface, and that little vehicle is called our body. And when we say our body, that's really an interesting concept because you can't find yourself in it, never mind actually find your body. Okay, and this is a very real point, and it's also one of the most wondrous things that you can experience once you finally experience it. This body you're looking at right now through this video screen is no more real than the image in front of you on your screen. If we were to look closely at this body, it is 99.99% empty space. The particles in this body are zipping around at near the speed of light. There's literally nothing here. It's just a happening. You're not actually talking to me, you're just talking to a happening. That's reality. And it's really not so bad. I mean, there's no confusion as to what's real and not real anymore once you understand that it's all just happenings. And life begins to flow a lot more smoothly. And life on this planet for all of us will begin to flow a lot more smoothly when we wake up. You know, we scurry from meaningless task to meaningless task, always on a schedule, right? Get up at this time, have lunch now, you're finished work at this time. This is not life. Rarely in those sort of schedules do we ever have the opportunity to even consider to stop and take a moment and think about our existence. Are we the sleeper? Is what I am asleep? Or is there something else going on? What will it take for us to wake up? What we truly are is far from asleep. What's actually asleep is the ego. As infinite shards of the sea of consciousness, which is my term for God, okay, totally non-gender, because gender cannot exist in the absolute. We are wide awake as shards of that consciousness. What we are is having the experience through this false sense of I that I deem myself to be. My role on this planet was determined far before I ever came onto this planet. It was planned out before I showed up here. The I that I think I am was not the I that walked in the door of the physical illusion. Through my mother's womb, of course. It's probably a door now. I shouldn't say that. She's dead. Never speak ill of the dead. My mom and I are totally at peace. It's not a big deal. We talk occasionally still, but to be honest, she's moved on, and that's great. She's got other lives on the go, and I'm happy for her. That's a wonderful thing. Uh, but I'm still lost at the door. So the I that came in is not the I that's here now. That I was as whole as it was ever when it came in, that initial baby that I came to take on as I. But the consciousness that forms between that entry point and today, for example, doesn't really exist in a real sense. It simply is not really there. So if the I that came into the world all those years ago, and believe me, it was a long time ago now, is not the same I that's here now, how real is that I? Well, that false sense of self that developed somewhere around the age of 8 through 13 is no more than the memory bank. It's that whole receptacle of all my experiences, every thought I've had, every word I've spoken, everything that I've experienced through my eyes, as well as a plethora of other sensory inputs quite beyond our conscious awareness, that all are returned back to the sea of consciousness. We take it with us as part of the overall growth of that higher being that we truly are. And that being is wide awake. It is the ego. That over-identification with the role that we're down here and our experiences as forming what we actually are, that is the culprit. The sleeper dreams it is a human being and dreams along its own experience. Within the dream, we would call this relative universe. We are literally creating step by step, moment by moment, day by day. It is this unconscious creating that we must awake from. You know, sleeper seeking, I talk about seekers in another video here, and that'll come online soon as well. But, you know, when you wake up, you first start to seek. It's like a sleeper waking in the morning. You're hungry. You want that first cup of coffee, that first cigarette if you're a smoker, whatever the case may be. But you're hungry for it. When you first begin to wake up in the world, and when I say you, I'm talking about your false sense of self. You're hungry to find out if there's more. This hunger is driven by our suffering. There is no actual suffering on the planet. The suffering is through perception. Now, you could argue a very real point that when you see someone who is being attacked and beaten by someone else, that they are indeed suffering. And at an egoic sense, at a very physical sense, yes, there is a suffering going on. But that suffering, the being that we truly are, is never harmed. And you know, one may ask, and this is a very, very valid question. Don't ever think that it's not. What would be the point of any of this? Why help anyone if no one is actually suffering? You know, and again, it comes back to why we're here. We are here to awaken. We are here to cease the sleep. We are here to realize that as egoic identities, as egoic energies, as this concept of I, that indeed it is a gift that can evolve the whole through the gift that my particular I has to offer. But that I, right now, is an insane roommate in our heads. You know, and that's the way you have to think about it. The voice you hear in your head isn't a bad person. they're quite insane. And if you don't think that the voice in your head is insane, look at the things that we lie to ourselves about. Look at the things that we're willing to tell ourselves. Look at the things we're willing to do to ourselves and to each other, all to satisfy that voice in your head. Now, your insane roommate in your head's a good person, and you need that roommate. But you certainly don't need that roommate the way it currently is. You can't kill your roommate. You need to wake up the roommate. You need to end the suffering for the roommate. You need to make that roommate sane again. You know, there's a whole plethora of videos I should mention here that people could watch. I would start, of course, with the video on death and perhaps thoughts and perceptions, because this is a big part of the asleepness of the human race. Most people are unaware that the reality that they perceive through their thoughts and perceptions, and I talk about what perceptions are in the thoughts and perceptions video, okay? Perceptions are our thoughts about something or someone or an event added to our feelings about those thoughts. That becomes a perception. And those perceptions can be quite damaging, especially when we're asleep. To awaken the species, a good question to ask at this point would go something like this. If I am not the sleeper, if the ego is what's asleep, why does our higher self sit back and simply watch the happenings? Why not ease the suffering of ego? There are a number of valid reasons why that this is and is not the case, but the two primary ones are really fairly obvious. And the first is known as freedom of choice, or what the Bible would call free will. All beings in the universe, by the universe's design, have free will. They will do as they will. Beings that become conscious in the universe have another additional beautiful ability that comes into play with that consciousness, and that is the ability to consciously choose. To take that away, I mean, do you stop your child from going and playing on the slide because the last time they were on it, they broke their leg? No. At least I hope you don't. I've broken so many of the bones in my body. My head is just a rock now. I mean, the baseball bat to the head from my wife wouldn't hurt me at all. It really wouldn't. In creating this relative universe, the infinite sea of consciousness realized that to truly be able to experience itself, all the pieces of itself that it shattered into to form this magnificent, beautiful universe we live in that sea of consciousness, all the pieces must be able to choose their own viewpoint, to choose their own perceptions, their own thoughts. That's all up to you to choose. The problem is we don't choose it very often. Most times we allow others to choose, we allow our societies to choose, or we allow the television or our online relationships to choose. Choosing must return to that conscious place. That is the first reason why our higher selves doesn't step in. And believe me, actually, it does step in so often. It's just that the ego is, for the most part, totally unaware of it. This ability to choose, there's another word, and that word is create. Our choices are our ability to create. We are creating through our choices. Learning how to become conscious creators, responsible conscious creators, is part of the beauty of this physical evolution, which is mirroring a metaphysical, spiritual evolution of growing consciousness. That overall sea of consciousness that broke it down into all those little pieces, those pieces are growing more conscious, growing together, and making evolutionary leaps. And from the Creator's point of view, it would be a magnificent thing to see. As shards of that one consciousness, it is our inherent gift that we create as we wish. But we're not very conscious in our creations. We create machines of war. We create weapons to harm one another. We create stress. We create pain. We create suffering. And I know it's hard to accept. It was for me for a long time. It's actually perfect. It's perfect in that none of us are truly harmed. And it's perfect in that we are always shown the results of our creation. And our creation is wrapped up in our thoughts and our words and our deeds. And we're always offered the redemption of being able to change what we create. This is what it truly means to wake up. This is why our higher self will never take away our freedom of choice. The second reason why that it may not appear our higher selves is actually helping us or easing the suffering lies in the base premise that the ego is lying to itself that it's alone. We are never left alone. We are never separate. You know, I have reached out through the beautiful thing that Facebook and the internet has offered to help raise consciousness. And I've had people reach right back out to us. Now, yeah, it would be lovely to do in person. But, you know, we can encompass the world like this. There is nothing in you that need be something you deal with by yourself, because I swear to you, it is the truth that if you could see the minds of all those around you in the way that I do, you are not alone in what you're dealing with. The false egoic identity of self is not just a singular identity within. It is literally a thought cloud that surrounds this planet, like a big dark storm cloud, okay, punctuated with brilliant flashes of light. Okay, the light's always there. Light cannot be defeated. The light is the end of the road, okay, and we're gonna get there. We as egoic beings, as this falsely identified sense of I, taking that I out of you does not make you less. It actually makes you more whole again. Because once that I moves out of the way, you become transparent. You understand that everything you do is literally to the glory of that sea of consciousness. You understand that ultimately it's not even the you think you are that's doing anything. Watch my video on Om Tat Sat, who is the doer. That's a great discussion on understanding that we don't actually do anything. Not even the dishes. At the end of the day, we as a species are faced with a magnificent opportunity, and we've been brought here time and time and time again. What we are is not asleep. It is that false sense of self, that ego that we continuously buy into, that insane, yes, roar, roar, says the puppy, even she agrees, that insane roommate inside the head that we keep buying into as the foundation of our reality, and it's not. This has been Garhen for awakentheworld.ca. I wish you namaste and much love to you all. I hope you enjoyed. Take care.